Entrepreneurship speaker series, kicking off our winter term webcast lineup with a whole new e-commerce series that we're just so excited for. I'm Alicia McLeod. I'm a program coordinator with Western Entrepreneurship, and today is the first session of our new partnership with Shopify. Here at Western Entrepreneurship, we're so excited to bring you 4 sessions that are a part of the Shopify's e-commerce series. And today is your introduction to e-commerce with Emily Turner. Emily is a Global Enablement Specialist at Shopify, and she'll be kicking off today's great session. As always, we want to help you out with your time here. So if you attend all 4 sessions of these live Shopify webcasts, you could be eligible for a LinkedIn skill badge and or co-curricular record. We have some awesome content for you today, and so we'd love for you to engage. Make sure you do that. And we'll just ask that you keep your questions for Emily to the end, where we will open it up to the audience for some Q&A. Okay, so let's dive in. Emily, over to you.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. It's Emily with Shopify. I am so excited to be chatting with everyone today. Just a note to Alicia's point, you're going to notice we have left the chat open in addition to a couple polls. Today, I'm hoping to get a couple answers and engage with you guys in the chat as we're working through it. But a reminder that if you do have any questions, to please drop them in the question tool and we'll address them towards the end of the session. But with that, we will jump into our agenda for the day. So today we're going to be talking about 4 main things, but based on the polls that we took in advance of our session, it sounds like we have a lot of people who are new to e-commerce or potentially looking to start a business online. So this session is intended to give you an overview of the components of doing that. Again, so we're going to start by chatting a little bit about e-commerce and who Shopify is. And then we're going to dive into getting your online store set up and ready to go. And then talking through landing pages and writing great content for your website. And we're going to finish up by going through a quick checklist to make sure that your launch of your site is going to go off without a hitch. As a reminder, if you do have any questions, again, please feel free to drop them in the tool. Even if they're on topics that aren't necessarily covered today, I can either follow up with resources or they may be answered on one of our later webinars as well. But just to get us started, what I'd love is for everyone to maybe just drop a quick 1 or 2 sentences in the chat box about what you think the definition of e-commerce is and why e-commerce is important for businesses and entrepreneurs. So we'll give everyone a couple seconds to do that, which gives me time to be able to drink my tea quickly. Yep. Okay. Couple answers there. Yep. Selling online, business through digital media. Okay. Yep. Some great answers rolling in. I love the line, "It is the future." We certainly believe it at Shopify. So e-commerce, to everyone's point, is electronic commerce or internet commerce. So it's basically the buying or selling of goods on services or goods or services using the internet and the transfer of money and data to execute these transactions. So e-commerce is most commonly thought of in terms of the sale of physical products online, but it's essentially anytime there's a commercial transaction that's facilitated through the internet. So exactly, if you have no physical store and you still want to be able to sell things to customers, e-commerce is the way to do that. And when we think about why it's important, again, in the chat, what you guys think this number on the screen represents. And assuming I put the right number of zeros in, it should read $4.9 billion. Any guesses? Okay. Yeah, some great guesses. Okay, so 4.9 billion US dollars is the estimated amount of revenue that will be done on e-commerce in 2021. And no, it would be nice if it was sales made on Shopify, but it's not quite. But yeah, 4.9 billion is what's estimated to be sold by online businesses through e-commerce alone in 2021. And so e-commerce becomes super important, especially in today's world when so many people are buying things online or in COVID and they're not able to go into the store. And e-commerce is an easy and fast way for entrepreneurs and new businesses to reach potential customers. And it's far less expensive to actually set up in comparison to traditional brick and mortar revenue, where you would also carry that overhead of a store or a lease. And so when we think of that e-commerce, the different types of e-commerce that are making up the potential $4.9 billion in 2021, there are really 4 types of e-commerce business, and you've probably experienced a few of them. The first is business to consumer. And so this is when businesses sell a good or a service online to individual consumers. So if you've ever ordered running shoes or clothes, anything like that online, this is considered a B2C transaction. This is the most common type of online business that we support. And so it's going to be the focus when we're really building out our stores a bit later in today's chat. The second is business to business. So this is when businesses sell goods or services to another business online. Shopify is an example of this. We sell our platform to other businesses versus selling them directly to consumers. The third is consumer to consumer, and this is when consumers sell goods or services to another consumer. So if you've ever bought or sold anything on Kijiji from someone else or on Facebook Marketplace, those are examples of consumer to consumer sales. And the final one, which is less common, but it's becoming more common now with Instagram influencers and people like that, is consumer to business. And this is when consumers sell their own products or services to a business or organization. So if you're an Instagram influencer and you are offering exposure to your online audience to a business in return for money, that is considered consumer to business. Or when people take great photos and they get asked by the business if the business can reuse them in marketing content, again, that's consumer to business. We're going to focus on the B2C side of things. And within the B2C world, there's really 2 main kinds of B2C merchants. Merchants are what we call Shopify customers. They're all the entrepreneurs and businesses that we work with, just as a caveat, because I'm going to say merchants a lot. So I apologize in advance if I slip it in and out in place of customers. But there are 2 main kinds of business to consumer merchants. They are curators and makers. Curators sell products that someone else has made or created. So an example of them would be V2V, very home goods business in Toronto and Montreal, and they sell different home goods like tables, chairs, sofas that are made by other artisans, versus makers who create and sell their own products like Allbirds. So when you think of people that have a really recognizable brand of their clothing or their product, they're likely a maker, versus someone that sells multiple different brands, they would be a curator. And there are some businesses that do both. They curate and they make their own products. So that is essentially the different types of e-commerce. Curators and makers make up the bulk of the online businesses that we work with at Shopify. And we're going to chat a little bit about what Shopify is. But first, Alicia, this is our first poll. What I'd love to know is how many people have bought something online, not from Amazon. So if you've ever bought anything from an online store that was not Amazon.ca or .com. So give everyone a couple seconds to just enter in their results. Drink some more tea. Also, just as we're completing the poll, you are going to notice if you've watched any of the memes about different types of people on Zoom, I am 100% the type of person who has 1,000 different beverages. So I will apologize in advance for my frequent teacup and water bottle appearances. But we'll give everyone a couple more seconds and then we will close it out, Alicia. And if you're able to post or show the results. Yes, okay. So of the 97% of people who have bought something online, not from Amazon, and if you haven't, no worries, you've likely actually purchased something from a Shopify merchant. So for anyone not familiar with us, we are a Canadian technology company headquartered out of Ottawa that is focused on making it easier for entrepreneurs and business owners to run, start, and grow their businesses online. And Shopify's mission is to make commerce better for everyone. And so we talk a lot about online. We do also offer solutions for businesses that are running their business in person or in brick and mortar stores as well. But we're really going to focus on the online side of things today. So with that, that kind of rounds out the first part of our chat about what is e-commerce, the different types of business models that make up e-commerce revenue, different within that, makers versus curators. So as you're starting to think of, if you wanted to start a business, what kind of business do I want to be? We're going to chat a little bit about building our store, but there's a couple logistical things that we want to have in place before you jump in and you start building your trial or building your website in your store. The first is product photos. And product photos and product pages are probably the most important part of your customer's buying process online. And that is why we are not going to talk a lot about it today. It's going to be the entire focus of Thursday's webinar is creating beautiful product pages that are going to help you convert more customers. So we're going to leave that one alone for now. The second thing, though, that you're going to need for sure in order to start your business is a business name. You'll need this to be able to purchase a domain and just so that people know what your business is and who you guys are once you get started. The third is a logo, and logos are optional, technically. They're a great opportunity, though, to build brand and familiarize potential customers with your business if you're going to be sharing a lot of things on social media or multiple different channels. And the fourth is writing copy or copywriting. Copy is not in this sense of it, it's not about trademarking your website or things like that. This is about all of the different content and words and writing that are actually going to exist on your site. And there's a lot of writing that actually goes into building an online store. So just something to be aware of, that you're going to want to spend some time thinking about the branding and the language and the tone that you want your copy to take. So now that you have all those things in place, we will jump into building a store. The first thing you're going to want to do when you're signing up for a trial is make sure you're choosing a great domain name. And so a couple key things when you're thinking of domain names and how you're going to choose great ones. The first is you want your domain names to be short, brandable, and memorable. So I have two examples on the screen, Nix and Gymshark. You'll notice that they're one word, there's no hyphens, no numbers, they're easy to remember and they're relatively short for you to be typing in to look up. Additionally, try to choose .com domain names. If you absolutely cannot find a .com domain name that matches what you want, you can use .ca or .shop, but .com tends to be the first thing that people search and it will boost it higher in your search results. Additionally, when you're thinking of search results, you want to include SEO terms, which are search engine optimization terms, in your domain if possible. So these are what Google uses to run the search results and essentially stack rank them in the results page that they give you. So when you're looking at Gymshark, again, as an example, for anyone not familiar with Gymshark, they sell gym clothes and athleisure. So if I was to Google gym clothes, Gymshark, because it's in the domain name, actually ranks higher in Google's search results than it would if it had a name of Home Shark, for example. Okay. The next part of it is you do want to do some research on your desired domain name because you want to make sure that nobody else has the exact same one. And so there's a couple different ways you can do this, but you can run a trademark search. You want to check social media, check out people's Instagram, TikTok, different handles, just to make sure that you're also going to be able to have the relevant handle that you want. And then do a Google search to make sure that there's nobody that has a close to or identical name. And then finally, if you are scratching your head about what a possible domain name could be for your business, there are tools that will there are tools to do a name generator that will generate domain name inspiration based on your business name. Once you've chosen your domain and so you have a destination site that potential customers could go to, now you get to design your site. And so in order to design your site with Shopify, there's something called a theme store that you're going to be able to use. And themes are essentially pre-built templates and designs of websites that make it easier for you to build your website without having any web design or tech programming knowledge. And so when you're looking through your theme store, you want to choose a theme that really fits your style and the brand that you're going for. There's a couple things to consider within that. The first is the quality of pictures. So if you're taking really high quality pictures with really high resolution, you want to make sure that you're pulling in high resolution themes only. The second is the size of your catalog. Depending on how many products you're going to be selling, you may want to have different layouts or different pages, and that will be reflected in your theme. You can actually search by high volume catalogs or low volume catalogs. And then finally are any additional features that you think are going to be really important to build into your site. So features can be things like if you have an Instagram associated with it and you want to have your Instagram feed live into your website, you'll be able to do that within certain themes. When you're looking around and you're trying to find the right theme, really spend some time testing out the options. You can try them out, you can demo them, you can see them in action so that you get a theme that feels and looks like the store that you are trying to create. The other thing to remember about themes is that they create your navigation styles. So the way your menu naturally looks on your website is dictated by your theme, as is parts of your checkout and how your checkout will look and feel, like what that page looks like. Finally, once you've picked your theme, you still want to remember to customize it. The themes are easily customized. They have built-in options to be able to change all the colors, adjust all the text, change some of the layouts and the image locations around so that you can really make your site feel like your business. You can, if there are any coders, I have no coding experience, but if you can code, you can actually make those edits in the code of the theme as well to further customize it. It's just not something we recommend when you're first starting out. So that is domains, themes. Those are the big components of what is the name of your website, essentially, that the internet is going to use to find it, and what is your site going to look like once people land on it. Once you've kind of covered the front end of it, which is essentially what your site looks like, how people are going to find it, there's also some work to do on the back end of your site that you're going to want to do before you're getting ready to launch. The first is setting up payment methods. So this is deciding what kind of payment methods you're going to accept. Are you going to accept credit cards, Apple Pay, Google Pay, pay upon delivery, and making sure that it's linked to your bank account so that when customers buy things, the money goes to the right place versus just disappearing into the internet. The next is you will need to set up taxes. There's a full online guide around setting up taxes, but most taxes are automatically based on within your store, based on where you're selling to. So you'll be able to easily set those up just in the back end. And then shipping. Shipping is a really important thing if you're going to be shipping products or if you're selling physical products online. You are going to need to consider the weight and the size and the dimensions of some of your shipping profiles. You'll be able to actually build out things like how much money do people have to spend before they get free shipping, or what is my flat shipping cost? So if you've ever bought anything from a store and it says like spend $10 more and get free shipping, those kinds of rules you can build out in the back end to provide a great incentive for your customers to add extra items or purchases to the cart. The next part of this is the channels you want to sell on. So Alicia, I know you have a poll in here, I believe, a question around, if you want to push it out around, has anyone ever purchased anything from like an Instagram store, Pinterest, or Facebook? As everyone is answering that, I know I love that somebody bought Allbirds, and I noticed somebody had a question. These screenshots are all from the ones that show the back end of our store, are all from my personal test demo store. So this is what our admin looks like, but it's my example of the admin. And so as you guys are just answering that poll, we'll give it a couple more seconds. Instagram, Facebook Messenger, Pinterest, Etsy, these are all considered sales channels. And so when you're thinking of your business and what you're going to be selling and who your target customers are, you want to consider your sales channels that you're going to be selling on as well, because it's an easy way to reach your customers. And you'll be able to start adding and managing those all from within one place. So you'll notice and then Alicia, I'll let you close that out and publish the results, but you'll notice yes, no, okay, so half and half. In purchasing from those other ones, it's a really easy way to engage with people potentially. It just requires a little bit, you just have to have a Facebook and an Instagram set up in order to do so. It's a really common way that we're seeing people drive extra revenue is by selling on Pinterest and Instagram in particular, because I can see something I love that someone else is wearing on Instagram, click on it and actually check out right from your feed on your site. But those are all considered to be sales channels. So On the left of my demo screen here, you'll see I have an online store, I have a POS, I have Facebook Messenger set up, Pinterest, Shop, Facebook, which also would control my Instagram, so that I can basically sell on all these different channels, but I only have to log in and manage it in one place. And that way, all of my product inventory, if I have physical product, will all sync also across all these different channels. Yeah. The last piece on here is local delivery and pickup options. So in COVID, there was a big, obviously all the retail stores needed to close. And so there's a big need for people to be able to pick things up quickly or have them delivered locally if they were in the area. Local delivery is also a great alternative to shipping if you're just getting started and you really only want to sell within your, maybe the greater London area, you have a car and you're going to do drop-offs. And you can set it up for local delivery so that your products are only available for purchase and delivery within a certain radius, essentially. And so this is the back-end setup of it. I think I saw a point about, does the inventory get updated? Yes, all of your inventory will get updated in real time across all the different sales channels that live within it. So those are the main components that you're going to set up in the back end. There's a few other pieces that we're going to talk about in terms of setting up products and inventory. But again, that's going to be the focus for Thursday. So I don't want to go into it too much today. So we're going to jump on to, again, what your customers are seeing and chat through content and landing pages. And so when you're creating great content, there's really three things to think about. The first is to know your audience. Right? Great writing, especially in marketing, only really works when you're speaking your potential customer's language. So when you're building your site and you're building your business, you want to think about who are those potential customers, what do they talk about, how do they talk, and what's going to really excite them about your business specifically. The second thing is messaging hierarchy. And so this is all about determining what comes first, second, and third, just like you would in an essay or anything like that. You want to lead with your most important points and finish with your least important. And when you're writing these, one thing to remember is that people don't really read online stores. They're not reading a ton of content. They're typically scanning it. So try to get your points out of the way in the most concise way possible. So it's easy to read and easy for them to not be pulled offside or just get too distracted in all the reading. Finally, the third thing is when you're thinking of features and benefits, particularly of your products, you want to make sure they're conveyed in an exciting way so that you're trying to tell a bit of a story, which means mixing facts and relevant details with color and, again, going back to that, speaking the language of your customers. So a really great example of this is on the ribbed jogger description under the style notes, right? Welcome to casual comfort. Our sellout jogger just got the comfort upgrade with our softest ever all-day ribbed fabric. This crew fave jogger features a soft elastic band that moves with you and a classic jogger silhouette that's roomy up top and gathered at the ankle. And so Lively's done a really great job of writing a product description. Okay, I'm talking a bit more detail, but you'll notice they've pulled in relevant feature details like the crew, soft elastic bands, a jogger silhouette, but it still has enough color and tells a bit of a story so that it's interesting for people as they're reading it. In terms of content, there are pages on your site that are going to require a bit more of a build out on it. The first is a homepage. So homepages play a really important role in customer buying behavior. This is often your virtual storefront. It's one of the first pages, if not the first page, that customers are going to engage with when they find or they come across your site. And this is how you can start to guide them and lead them towards the products or the pages you need them to spend time on. Bear in mind, most visitors only spend 10 to 20 seconds on your homepage. So it's crucial that your homepage provides them with the information or access to the products they're looking for at a glance. So when you're building out a homepage, there's four main things to think about. The first is, what do you want your visitors to do or to see when they first arrive at your store? Often customers are not going to make a purchase on the first visit to a site. And so for many businesses, the goal of getting someone first to your homepage is one of those pop-ups that says, get a 10% discount in your email, enter in your email, and that way they're entered into your marketing funnel and you can continue to market them. Another example, which is on the slide here, is Cotton. They've chosen to include their mission and their impact that they have on their community on their site, on their homepage, because they believe it's important and they want to make sure that their consumers know what the money they're spending is supporting. The second is short and simple copy. People don't want to read lots of information on a homepage. And there's 1,000 different distractions on a computer to pull them, or on their phone to pull them in different directions. So you want to minimize the number of distractions and lead them into their action. So the Gymshark example of step into cardio, you can shop women's, shop men's. Third is simple navigation. Sites with too many navigation options can feel cluttered, overwhelming, and they actually increase the likelihood that people and visitors will drop off before making a purchase. And since most people are also shopping on their phones potentially, you want to make sure you have a maximum of about 3 to 4 probably headers at the top of your page. And a good practice is, yes, navigation is the menu. Good practice is to always prioritize from left to right or top to bottom in terms of importance. So when you're thinking about your menu, if you were to have products, about us, contact us, FAQ, for example, if that's what you decided was the most important pieces. Finally, the fourth best practice when it comes to homepages is to display your best-selling or your top-selling products, as it seems to create a bit of a social herd mentality. People want to buy what other people have or what other people have bought and really loved. And so it's an easy way to increase the likelihood that your customers are purchasing. In addition to home pages, there's a couple other pages that likely will involve some content creation. So typically it's a best practice to have a contact us and an FAQ page. FAQ pages are great in terms of really answering some of those questions around like shipping, return policies, things that might cause a customer to hesitate before they make a purchase if they're not sure, and you can easily address those so that they're able to move through that process at ease. Then the other part of it is, of course, you can have an About Us page. So depending on your brand and what kind of engagement you want with your customers and the community you're trying to create, an About Us page is a great way for people to get to know a little bit more about the business, how it got started, the mission behind it. And lots of people really like that feel, especially when they're working with smaller or newer businesses that are just getting started, or businesses that are owned by entrepreneurs versus big box companies. And then the final one is blogs, but I think that's going to be a topic for next week. So I'm going to leave that one for now. The other kind of page, I guess we'll call it, is a landing page. And so landing pages look a little like a home page, but they have a very different purpose. Unlike the homepage, landing pages are created specifically for a marketing campaign or for traffic. So they're primarily used when you're doing paid marketing. So you're not likely going to have a landing page maybe right off the bat with it. But as you start to build your store and get more traffic and have more customers and you want to do paid advertising, that's really when landing pages come in, because they're often the first point of contact for customers that have come in again through that marketing campaign. They give people a bit of an impression or a taste, and they always have a prompt for a visitor to take action. That can be take a quiz to find out what makeup foundation you should be using, what kind of shampoo, what shoe size are you, or it can be download information or even check out sale items. And so when you're building landing pages, and this kind of goes for your home page as well, but it's really important when you're thinking of landing pages are including the most important information above the fold. And what that means is you want to include the most relevant and important information before I have to start scrolling. And so when you're thinking again that people are often on their phones when they're doing some of these, especially when it comes to landing on landing pages, you want to bear that in mind and just make sure that it's a really short copy, it's a really easy picture, and you're not requiring anyone to scroll or essentially have to move and look for what that action is. The next part of that is your call to action button should be eye-catching, it should be large, and ideally it's actually a different color than almost anything else on your site, so that it really stands out and it makes it easy for you to be able to attract the attention required so that it's easy for someone to click. And then finally, you want to try and create an emotional connection with your users. So in the example of the ND mattresses that you see on screen, right, you deserve better sleep. If I'm tired, I definitely think that I deserve better sleep. And so if I happen to land on it, it's likely that I'm going to click on that action of continuing to keep, or I'm going to continue keep shopping, or click keep shopping. So that's on content and landing pages. Once you've built that out, so now that you've built all of the stuff, there's a couple things around just preparing to launch. So your site is built, you think everything's ready to go. This is kind of that checklist to measure twice, cut once, so that you have a really successful launch. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you want to test payments and review your checkout process. And so within Shopify, you can test the payments method that you're accepting just to make sure that everything is going to work smoothly. The last thing you want is to find out that there's a bit of a glitch or anything like that, and you're not going to be able to accept someone's credit card. And on the flip side of that, when you're going through that checkout and you're doing the payments process, you want to make sure that you've minimized the number of clicks from point A to point B in the checkout process. Ideally, there's no more than 3 to 5 clicks for me to click on a product, check out, and actually make my purchase. Once you've done that, go back through and take a look at your images, make sure that all the pictures are the right ones, that you've uploaded only your high resolution ones or your best quality pictures, remove any ones that kind of don't fit the branding or the color schemes, whatever you want from a design standpoint. And then that leads us into our next point of reviewing your content and the design of your site. And so when you're doing this one, number 3, this is a really important one to spend some time going through your site page by page and looking at really 4 things: the motivation on the page, friction, distraction, relevancy, and clarity. And so what those essentially mean is when I'm looking at the page, what is my motivation to do on it, right? Like, what is the next step? Am I being motivated to continue making the purchase or to check out or to look at something else? Friction is how hard is it for me to move to that next step of my buying process? If I'm on a product page, how hard is it for me to put something in my cart or check out to the site? So just going through those ones. Once I'm on the checkout, how much work is it for me to enter in my information and actually check out? Distraction. Are there a number of other things happening? Is there too much information on the site? Am I being pulled in too many different directions that I'm not actually going to finish my purchase? Relevancy, this is all about the right information. When we talked about content, right? Is the information on the page relevant to what you're trying to sell? Does it make sense? Does it serve a purpose? And then clarity. Is it clear? Is it easy to understand? And is it concise? So that's what you're really looking for when you're going through your content. The 4th thing is to check all of your inventory. Again, we're going to spend more time talking about this, but you want to make sure that you're not launching a website with products that are out of stock, being available to purchase online. That just creates a really poor feeling for your customer, and it actually can be detrimental on a trust score. If I launch a brand new site and I have a bunch of products that have 0 stock, people are less likely to want to buy things that maybe are in stock because it seems like I'm not maintaining my site and things like that. Finally, now that you've done the bulk of the checking and the work, you want to make sure that you have a marketing plan to tell the world all about your business. Launching a new store is super exciting. And so you want to have a marketing plan so that you can drive some of that traffic to your site. When you're thinking of a marketing plan, it doesn't have to be a number of paid ads or Google search words, like things like that cost a lot of money and you may not see your return right away. But what we do see lots of entrepreneurs doing when they started is they kind of build some hype in the lead up to their launches on their different social medias. They collect a bit of a following. And then when they launch, they're able to make a bunch of announcements, potentially offer discounts to really encourage people to start coming to their site at the beginning. And then finally, once you've built your marketing plan, you've started dropping hints about how exciting your new business is going to be for everyone to attend, it is time to actually launch your site. And in order to do that and send your site live into the world, you're going to, under your online store, click the Disable Password button, which will essentially remove the password protection that's preventing anyone from seeing the store while it was being built, and your site will be live and you'll be ready to go. And so that is my presentation. We've left lots of time to kind of go through questions and have a bit of a discussion, but thank you guys so much for listening to me and engaging. And I'm really grateful that you guys all participated in the chat and the polls, and I really appreciate it. And with that, Alicia, I will turn it over to you and we can start some of the questions if that works.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Tons of great information there. We're getting a ton of questions in. Again, just a reminder for those who put their questions in your chat, we'll just ask if you can kindly put them in the Q&A just so we're looking all in one spot and we're not missing out on anyone's questions. So if you're ready, we'll get started. We have one here from Elena. It says, are you able to build your store and not launch before starting to pay the monthly fees? Or do you have to pay the fees even before you launch your store? Wondering if I'm able to build it, let it sit, then launch it in a few months once I'm developed proper marketing.
Yeah, so two things on that. You will get a 14-day trial. I think there's a longer one right now, which I probably should have looked at my own marketing material. So I can follow up on the length of our revised trial, but you do have a 14-day trial in which you can build everything. The second part of that is if you decide that you need more time, you're not quite finished, or you're not going to be selling anything online, you can actually also, it's called like a freeze. And so instead of paying like, let's say the normal monthly rate is $25, you're paying like $5. And it will let you build everything. You just won't be able to sell anything without having a monthly plan.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, we have another one here from anonymous attendee. It says, are we able to design our entire website with zero programming experience? Also, what does your fee structure look like? Is it commission-based, or are we paying monthly/yearly fees for your service? Thanks.
Yeah, so on that one, you can design your entire website with zero programming experience. I have built a couple for my friends, and I do not know how to code anything. I am lucky when my computer doesn't blow up in a big presentation in front of lots of people. So we're all very grateful to my computer. So no, you don't need to have coding experience. In terms of how our fee structure works, there's two parts to it. The first is a monthly fee that gives you access to the platform, the services, things like that. The second is a transaction fee. And so there's a couple nuances within that. But if you're using our payment, it's essentially a transaction fee on our payment gateway. And what a payment gateway is, for anyone who's maybe less familiar with e-commerce and that kind of structure, is whenever you buy anything, whether in person or online, there's a payment gateway that actually captures the information on your credit card, sends it to the bank to make sure it's good, confirms with the bank, and then takes the money from the bank and puts it in your bank account at a very simplified level. I'm sure our finance team would tell me I missed a few steps, but basically, if we're managing that process for us, there's also a fee on it versus you'd be paying those fees to someone else if you weren't using our payment processor. So that's how our transaction fees work. There is also a breakdown, which again, Alicia, I can make a note to send you as well, that will break down all of our Canadian price books and our fees in Canada if you're a Canadian business.
Awesome, thank you. We have one here from Giovanna. She writes, I already have a website. Can I link my website to Shopify? I'm a total novice at Shopify, but was recommended to do it.
Yeah, so there are two options on that. So we see quite a bit of it. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can either start to embed Shopify, we call them buy buttons or products, in your existing website. Or if you're looking to really capitalize on some of the conversion improvements that you get with Shopify, what we've seen people do is one of two things. If you have a site that you really like and you're maybe not feeling like you're the most tech savvy, or you want to pay to have it migrated over professionally and rebuilt on Shopify, what we've seen a lot of people do is when they link out to their products, like on your main site, you click link, it actually links to a shop.my whatever your domain is .com, and then you'll be able to actually have your current site talking to your Shopify site at a very high level, or the other option is to essentially either do it yourself or have someone do it, and they can actually migrate your site over. It's a little more expensive. And so if you're just getting started, my recommendation would just be to link out to a shop.yourdomain Shopify site so that you can just link them out. They're all hyperlinked to each other so that your customer doesn't know that they're changing sites, but you are seeing it, you're managing that on the back end.
Awesome. I can go ahead and answer Nick's question here around if the other sessions are available on Eventbrite. And yes, they are. They're actually currently posted. So the 3 sessions following this will be Thursday and then next week as well. They are all live, and we will share the link out to those so you can join us for the more great content to come. Another one here, it says, what advice would you give to someone who wants to customize their site but doesn't know how to code? Where should I find the help to customize?
Yes. So we have a couple tools that you can use. So within the back end of your store, when you click on your theme, once you've picked one, it's going to give you an option to customize. And when you enter it, I'll see if I don't think I have a screenshot and it will load too slowly. But what it will do is on the side, it will have all these things that will give you the option to change colors, change font. If you need help and you're like, I don't even know how to find that or where to start, we have 2 kinds of resources. So we have a help documentation that are all written documentation with step-by-step guides to walk through it. We also have a free learning platform called Shopify Compass, which once you have a Shopify store or even a login, it's a free program that allows you to go through and look at the content. And there's all these videos by Shopify experts who can walk you through. It's a recorded video, so I guess they're not walking you through it, but they're kind of walking you through it, the different theme pieces. The other option is you can also call our support team. We have a really great support team. They're available on chat or phone, I believe 24/7, definitely for chat 24/7, and they'll help you with making those customizations or some of those tweaks. They're a really great team and a really great resource to leverage when you're getting started.
Fantastic. We have another question here from Grace. It says, will having a blog on your online store help with search optimization? And can this be done on Shopify?
Yes. So having a blog in general just helps. It's an easier way for people to find things, right? And when you're thinking of search optimization, if I sell gym clothes, I obviously buy a lot of gym clothes in case you can't tell from my examples. So sorry about that. But, and you have a blog that's writing about maybe nutrition or wellness, like it just gives more options and more ways for people to find your site. You can blog on Shopify. You can create blogs. There's a blog pages feature within it. I'm pretty sure, I can confirm with her, I can send those resources to Alicia, but I also believe that blogs and some of that conversation will be covered in the next week's webinars from one of my colleagues when we talk about like going beyond just your online store. But yes, blogging is a great way. It's also a really great way to create a community with your customers. And so to keep people involved and engaged and build that brand loyalty so that people continue to return and keep shopping with you.
For sure. Great, thank you. We have a couple clarifying questions just around the content. So we have someone here, I think it was around the time when you were launching your page and getting ready, doing that checklist. It says, did you say 3 to 5 clicks from checkout to purchase? My apologies, it cut out for a moment.
Yeah, 3 to 5 clicks. So basically the fewer the clicks, the better. I think the number is like if it's beyond 7 or 8, like you're not, the likelihood that someone stops making that purchase like skyrockets by comparison. So that's why you'll see there's also a number of, I don't want to go too deep into it, but there's a number of pieces in online and e-commerce around accelerated checkout. So making it faster and faster to check out. So with Shopify merchants, for example, I don't even have to enter in my card if they're using Shop Pay. It's all securely saved. I get a text message as my dual factor authentication. I type it in, and it knows where it's going. I get to confirm the shipping address and it all moves through so that on certain stores, it can take me 3 clicks from start to finish to make my purchase. But anything, I would say between that like 3 to 5, depending on how many fields you require entry into.
Awesome. Another clarifying question from Robert. It says, could you repeat the 5 things you check for content and design? I got friction, distraction, relevance, and clarity, but missed the first one.
Yeah, the first one is motivation. So are people going to be motivated to continue on in your process, or what's the motivation on the page?
Awesome. Okay, we have another one here. It says, is it better to build your site yourself or to have someone else build it for you? What's the best for driving sales?
So it depends what you want your site to look like. It depends a little bit on your budget. You can see sites that are, people haven't spent as much time. And I guess it depends on how much time you have. Arguably, if you're just getting started, it may be better to build it yourself because it's going to lower your capital, like your overhead capital of building your business. You're going to be able to really control the branding, the feel, but you do have to commit to having the time to spend, especially if you're not familiar with building it. It's an easy to use tool. It doesn't require coding experience, but it's still going to take a little bit of learning. Just like if you went from an Android phone to an iPhone or an iPhone to an Android phone, you would find that there's maybe a bit of a learner's curve. So I would say that that part of it depends. You can, however, though, if you're looking and you have the capital to get a really slick, clean, fancy website, having a professional do it from one of our marketplaces, or there's like an experts marketplace that can build it for you, is not a bad option. It just depends. It also depends on what you're selling and how saturated your market is, I would say.
Fair. Perfect. We have a question here. It says, would Emily please repeat the name of the Shopify help/assistant service that one has available for them once signed up for Shopify, the one that they can attend?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily about attending it. It's on-demand learning. And so you can just click on all the shows and all the programs and all the webinars. It's called Compass. Actually, I will, if you bear with me, I think you guys can see my screen still, but I will just grab the link and I will drop it in the chat while you read the next part.
Perfect. Okay. Just let you finish up there.
No worries. You can talk while I type.
Okay, sure. So I have one here. It says, can you create and host an entire website with Shopify, or is Shopify an add-on that you can use with your other website hosts?
Yeah. So Shopify can technically be, you could build your entire site just on Shopify. You don't have to have another website. It's an all-in-one place for both your website and your store. You can pull it all in and use the same domains. You can, though, as in the example that we kind of chatted about earlier, if you have an existing site that you really like and it's maybe a little bit less of a store, you can, so what some people do is they keep their website, like their information sites and that, and then they link out to their Shopify store.
Great. We have another, like a lot of questions around personalization. So it says, can you give another specific example of when a landing page would be used? Thank you.
Yeah. So actually someone just sent me one, but a landing page would be used basically anytime that you're searching for a specific keywords and it pulls you to like a campaign page. So I'm going to use an example. It's a Shopify one. It's not necessarily a consumer one, but in May, we relaunched our point of sale product. And so all of our marketing pushed people to a landing page about point of sale. And in doing so, the action item on there wasn't buy point of sale now. It wasn't sign up for a trial. Like the action item, it was just one page. There was nowhere else to click on. It was just like a one pager, like you'd get like a printout, and it said, contact our sales team. And so that button prompted people to move through the process. So it's almost exclusively used with paid marketing or in like email marketing. If you want people to land on a certain thing and have it happen, those would be ones of it. Or if you've looked up, it's a company called like Maquillage that does foundation, and they make you take a quiz to try and match your foundation, things like that, where you maybe are looking up like great foundations, and then you click on the link and it takes you right to this quiz to like match your skin tone or match your base tone. Ones like that would work a lot.
Sweet. Great. We have another good question here from Jordan. Writes, if I'm a curator, how can I sync multiple suppliers' inventory to my own site? What requirement do I need from my suppliers in order to sync inventory?
Yeah, so it depends on what kind of curator you are. There are kind of two kinds of curators. One of them buy and they bring in all of their products in-house. So in the example that I had in the presentation, V2V has a store. So they actually bring in everything. So they know what their inventory is because they've already procured it and brought it in. The other option where you're not keeping your inventory is called drop shipping. And it's where you're shipping it directly from them. And so there's a couple different ways of doing this. Often though, you're using a tool. Shopify has a drop shipping platform. It's called Oberlo, and it lets you find drop shippers that you're doing. If you're selling products, like we'll use Nike as an example, if you're selling a number of those, you may actually have to build, and this is where it becomes complicated. If you sell Nike, Adidas, Puma, like you're probably not, they don't do a ton of drop shipping. You're a reseller of them. You likely have to either work with them to bring in the inventory yourself and then resell it and manage it. But if you want them to manage the inventory, you would need to set up those relationships with the vendors themselves. And often that's by connecting some of your back-end technology, which we won't get into too much detail. I just don't want to overwhelm anyone. But yeah. That's on that one. Drop shipping, though, if you are interested in it, it's called Oberlo. And I will, once I figure out how to use the chat, drop that link in as well for anyone who's interested in drop shipping.
Jordan is drop shipping. He just clarified with us, so that works.
Okay.
If you're ready for another question, we have one here. It says, how do you choose which bank manages the payment gateway? Any criteria one needs to look at?
Yeah. So when you use Shopify, you technically, depending on what you're selling, assuming you fall within our payments requirements, you wouldn't actually have to worry about managing which bank does it. You would be able to have Shopify would manage the gateway so that you don't have to do it. It's one less relationship, and you just need to have your own bank account for us to put the money in for you.
Awesome. Okay. I don't know if, so this is a follow-up to that question from the same person. It says, in addition to the payment gateway question I asked earlier, I want to understand what additional costs are associated with managing customer payment data and charges associated with the payment gateway itself. Any hidden charges to keep an eye out for?
So making sure that I've understood the question correctly. In terms of those ongoing transaction fees, I can't speak for other companies. Ours are all outlined on our site so that when you look at your program, you look at your plan, and when you sign up for a plan in the back end, it's actually going to tell you like what your transaction fees are going to be. So you'd be able to see them there. The big thing to look at potentially is also just in general, and you'll notice we have it as well, is are you paying a difference for domestic cards, international cards? In person, for example, in person, Shopify, one of the big differences is Shopify has a blended rate in person. So you pay one transaction fee on our in-person transactions for any credit card that comes into your physical store versus in other point of sales or other payment processors, you'll often pay different fees for different cards. It's why you'll see some stores don't take Amex. It's not because they can't process Amex, it's because Amex has a really expensive processing fee. And so a lot of stores, smaller stores, don't like to take it because it's going to cost them more money.
For sure. Okay, great. Another question around launching. It says, could you use a landing page to collect emails before you launch so that people can be notified once you launch?
Yes. So within Shop, what will actually happen, that's a great example to whoever asked that question. When you have a password on your site and your site is password protected while you're building it out, there will be like a landing page that if someone ended up on your domain, it would say like, get notified when we launch, and they would type in their email and they'd be able to be notified when they launch.
Awesome. I have a question here that says, do you need to register your business with the government to do it on Shopify?
So I'm going to give a caveat that we give everyone when we onboard people. Like, I am not a lawyer. I am not a legal expert by any stretch of the imagination. My understanding is that small businesses, depending on the size of your business, right off the bat, do not need to necessarily have a government registered ID. If you want to be like paying when you're doing your taxes, and once you reach a certain clip from a income level of like how much revenue your company is generating, then you do need to be like formally registered because you pay a different kind of tax and like business tax on it, but as long as you fall below a certain threshold, you don't necessarily need to have a government registered number. It's a best practice, of course, especially if you're planning on actually pursuing the business and growing it and not just selling mugs to your neighbors like I do online.
Fair. Okay, great. I'll ask just one or two just to be mindful of time and give Emily a break here. We have one from Maria that says, I don't have an online presence, but I do have a domain name registered. Can I bring my current domain name over to Shopify?
Yes, you can.
Awesome, short and sweet. And we have one more. Again, it's kind of more around the monthly fee, so maybe you even just have a resource to direct to. We have one that says, is it costly for a Shopify expert to help build your store out for you? What is the Shopify monthly fee on average?
So it depends. So Shopify doesn't build out the sites themselves. So you'd be working with one of the experts from our marketplace. So I'll answer that one first. There is I'm just looking for it. There's a site called, I'll drop this one in as well, experts.shopify. You'll notice there's a different range of people. You can look for them to be in Canada or in the US. There's a lot of developers in the US. So one thing to bear in mind is some people, when they've posted their prices on it, have posted it in USD versus Canadian, but they can kind of range anywhere from $75 an hour to up, essentially, depending on the size of it. You guys likely wouldn't be engaging like some of the really big businesses that do enterprise stuff, but it is kind of a ceilingless, yes, a roofless number. In terms of the ongoing cost for them, that's really up to you. It would be lots of people just bring in their experts to set up their site. They do it once, and then they have enough knowledge to kind of load their products and things like that themselves. They just want that custom feel and that really slick, nice website. So if you want that, you would be paying it as a one-time fee to get it set up. Lots of our experts, I believe, also do like packages of support. So every 3 months, if you just want your website tuned up, or for the holidays, or the different kind of like back to school promos, you could bring them back in for that, and they would have their rates associated. In terms of our fees, give me a second. Did you say that was the second part of the question?
Yeah, I think you kind of questioned around the monthly fees for the expert. So you kind of mentioned it.
Yeah, and I dropped in the chat the link for our Shopify Experts Marketplace. And for the individual who was curious about the pricing and the different fees and things like that, this is our pricing page. Our monthly subscription is all in US dollars because it's like the international standard currency, but you'll notice when you scroll down, all of the fees are in Canadian.
Awesome.
That will give you that full breakdown, so you don't have to rely on me.
Perfect. I'm actually going to wrap it up since we're coming up to our time here. So thank you again to Emily. Amazing content here. Lots of really great engagement from the audience. So thank you to the audience as well. This is our first session. We're super excited to have Shopify here with us. Be sure to tune in actually on Thursday, where we will be diving into creating effective and beautiful product pages with Shopify. Again, this is available on our Eventbrite under Western Entrepreneurship as our organizer profile, our link there for that event. So feel free to sign up. And as always, this is recorded. So just give us a couple of days to get this all upline on our Ivy webpage. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to entrepreneurship@uwo.ca if there's any links or anything that you want from Emily, and we will be sure to get that to you. But thank you once again to everyone, and thank you, Emily. We will see you on Thursday.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.